Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Reality Kingdom, where we talk all things reality TV or whatever.
Ah,
Period. I'm your host Pharaoh, and I'm joined by our wonderful, wonderful, wonderful co-host Lily. How y'all doing?
I'm doing swell. I'm excited for this ranking. Someone in the comments a while back asked us if we could do a North American Big Brother ranking. We were already thinking about doing it, so I'm excited because I feel like Kevin was a great addition to the winners. So it's gonna be great to see kind of how him and Tyshawn and Xavier, like a lot of the recent winners, we haven't really
Mm-hmm.
seen ranked. So it's gonna be really fun to see them kind of input it.
Exactly. So, as you see, today we are going to be ranking every North American Big Brother winner. That's BBUS and BB Canada. We are going to
Canada.
be Canada. We are going to be just going through all of the people on this part of the podcast. Part one, we're going to be talking about the 31st, the bottom, babe, the last
The
one on the
bottom.
ranking,
You know.
and all the way up to the 16th person. So from 31 to number 16, or whatever. That's who we're going to be talking about, and we're going to be discussing. We're going to go through their game, why they're
Mm-hmm.
in the place that they are. Woot the woot the woo.
And then
Um,
we also just want to preface this by saying these are all opinions. We know the girls get mad. We know the girls get defensive. These are all opinions. Me and Farrell both tried to make very, very objective opinions. We tried to look at the
mhm,
games as whole. Like, we know some of these people are terrible people, okay? But, we're basing the gameplay and the strategy. We both created two separate lists and we took the average of those. I feel like my list is more of kind of like how they are as a player, less than a winner. Like, could they come back and win again? What's their likelihood to win again?
mhm.
I'm someone who based strategy and just overall fight in the game. Like, I love people who have to face adversity, people who have to fight, and I love a
Mhm.
dominant control. So that's kind of like some of my biases going into my list. So
Mhm.
that's what I prioritize. And Pharaoh, he has his own things that he prioritizes. So like I said, this is all opinions, girls. Opinions.
Period. Yeah, like when I made my list, I definitely made sure to put importance on control. I like people who have control over their fate, over the game. So you'll hear me throughout this ranking talk about the control that someone had and whether or not they had control. I feel like social game isn't looked upon. So I feel like versus other rankings, their social strategic, the well-roundedness altogether of their
Mm-hmm.
game, including the social, including the physical, not just the strategy for me. And also, I feel like one important thing that I mentioned is that I had included in my ratings is like how they won the game that they won. So if they won by, the luck of the draw, the luck of the Irish bitch, I mean, they're not gonna get a good rating, or their rating might be lower than someone else who didn't have that benefit.
Yeah.
So those are the main things. And I want to reiterate. Lee already said it. I want to reiterate. We do not support these people as humans. We
No. In
know that
fact,
some of these people are bad humans. In fact, we don't
terrible.
like them.
We don't
I
like them.
fear.
A lot
Jackson
of
is
them,
a racist. I
yes,
fear.
yes.
Like, we do not like these people
And he
as
is a racist
humans.
apologist.
He's a racist apologist. Like, these people are not good. Adam had a whole drug fucking fact. We know.
We
So,
know, guys. We
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 are
know.
aware. You do
We
not have
are
to comment.
aware. We know all of everything.
The
We know.
T. We know the T.
We are caught up.
When we're rating them, just because, let's be clear, just because somebody is a racist does not mean they're a bad player. So if we have them in a
They're a bad
position,
person. They
they're
are a
not
bad person.
necessarily a bad player, I fear.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I wish.
Unfortunately,
I wish. So now that that's cleared up, I don't want to see now comment. I don't want to see a tweet. We good. We see each other.
we should good.
We're good. Let's get it started. Period. Straight into it. 31 girl. Them.
Ciao. The
Who
Pack
are they?
Brothers. So the Pack Brothers. Okay, so for the girls who don't watch BB Canada, they love a good twist. So the twist of Big Brother Canada season 4 was that, well, there were two twists. One, that these two international players from Big Brother Australia and the Big Brother UK will be coming in, and then the second twist was that the Pack Brothers, Nick and Phil, will be playing as one player. They will alternate each week between who will be playing competitions, and they actively act as one player. Now, the reason me and Farrell had the Pack Brothers 31, because I mean, like, there's not much to their game. You can call it bias or what. It's just, looking through season 4, there was a lot of mess that they kind of just stayed out of, which led them to get to the end. And then once they got past that, it was kind of the Kayla and Derek effect of BB Can 5, where the BB Can 6, where they were just able to kind of win out. And they did exactly that. They just kept winning and winning and winning, and they won. Strategy, they're literally a 0. They tried to nominate themselves. I mean, that in itself just shows a lot of the like Arissa had to go to commercial and get confirmation from the producers. Can they do this? Like, literally, like, no. So I just feel like strategically they're just not there. I will give them props because socially they're good, but then we do have to get into the competitions because Phil, which is the one in the red shirts, he was terrible at competitions and he had a bad social game. The one that was great at competitions was Nick. Phil was kind of the strategic mind, but he wasn't strategic, if you know what I mean. So it was the blind leading the blind, but Nick can win comps. You know what I mean? Honestly, I'm sorry. Kaycee definitely deserved to win that season. Rob, Goddess. Well, that's the thing. Everyone in that top 5, Joel, Cassandra, Tim, everyone deserved to win over them. It just sucks that, the competitions were so set up for them to win. They're all like in the early seasons in Big Brother in general, they're geared for people with better, physical ability. So they were able to beast out in the end and they got their win. So, hey.
And look, I'm not going to play with y'all and sit here and give y'all my reasoning. If you're a Big Brother fan, you agree. No one's going to disagree. And if you disagree, you're not a fan, I fear. They did nothing. I feel like it was an advantage and a disadvantage to have literally 2 people being able to go back and forth with competitions. Like they can rely on, if one person's social game was ass, which it was, and the other one was good, they can rely on that. If one person was bad at comps, what they were, the other one can help them and they can rely on that. It's just like they have literally 2 people playing for them. Like if me and Lee were in the house and we played as one person, what do you expect? At the same time, it's different to twin twists, brothers twists, whatever. But it's at the same time, they're both in the house creating relationships. So if someone hates Nick, that other person can like Phil and just be like, well, I like Phil, so it don't matter. Like it's just a weird we move. I'm not gonna stay on this. 30. Girl.
Now, honestly, I love my good sister Josh, I love her so much. But at the end of the day, I don't think anyone could be like, this is not rocket science why he's so low. I mean, the man was banging pots and pans in everyone's faces. I remember, when he did win that HOH that season, what week was that? And he wanted to target Paul. He didn't even go through with it. And it's like, I guess that's something where it's like, okay, well, he is kind of a strategic, he does definitely see that Paul needs to go. But at the end of the day, he won the final HOH and took him. So it's like, I mean, can I give him credit for that? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, Josh is someone who won because they wanted to see Paul lose. Like, there can be debate on what's a bitter jury or not. They claim to be bitter. They 100% went in saying, we are bitter. We do not like hashtag that man Paul, that person Paul. And they need to go. So I just feel like, Josh was the figurehead the whole entire season for Paul. I hate to say it. And this explosive and loud, and I'm going to be in your face personality is not going to work in every single season. It worked in the chaotic world that, Paul, WandaVision themselves made, but not in real life. That was in the fake universe.
And I want to say, like, I feel like with every single winner that we're going to talk about, whether they're low, high, or whatever, everyone has some type of they're not dumb. They won Big Brother. So they all have some type of sense. So there are points in the game where Josh has sense and he's like, Paul literally needs to go. And it's like, for him to have that sense, I feel like it's like, okay, you won. Like, I'm not that mad at you won. Like, you had some ABC sense. Also, there was times throughout the season that Josh would be active. And being an active player is not common in Big Brother. So there were times that Josh would be active and he would be like, I don't want to put up Jessica and Cody because if I don't put up Jessica and Cody, everyone else will. It'll survive me another week. Stuff like that. It shows that Josh, he won. And that's the thing. Josh didn't win from a twist. I don't know that the producers were rigging for Josh in any way. Like Josh didn't have a twist that helped him necessarily, specifically for him. There wasn't Josh won on his own accord. Through the events that he went through in the game. You know what I'm saying? So there's ABC sense there, but it's just ABC. You don't got a D or an F or an E.
Oh my
So
God.
that's that for him, I fear. And that's that. Boom. We're not gonna play with these low ones. Girl, this is my girl, I fear. So I just recently watched BB13, which was the season that Rachel won. And throughout that season, basically, Rachel was in a bad position, let's be honest. Even within her alliance, Jeff and Jordan did not like her. They literally hated her. There was times where Jeff and Jordan was like, Rachel and Brendan can go. It wasn't until Danny turned on Rachel. It wasn't until someone else turned on Rachel that forced Jeff and Jordan to work with Rachel because they didn't have a choice. And even in that scenario, there were multiple weeks where Rachel was nominated and could have went home. The week that LaJuan went home, it was a path for Rachel to go home. And because of that twist, LaJuan ended up going home. So there's literally a world where Rachel gets 11th place and doesn't even make jury. You know what I'm saying? And what we weren't that far from that world. Later on in the season, a Pandora's box comes. Just so happened they're gonna reintroduce the Paris twist of the season. First of all, the initial Paris twist of the season was rigged. It was rigged to help. It was rigged to help the returnees make it as far as possible. If one of them went, the other one would be safe until the jury. Yes, they made it fair because the other players were pairs, but you got to remember these new players were partners with strangers. I could go in the house with Jeffrey Dahmer and be his partner and be like, oh, well, I guess we're partners, so we got to work together. They're not going to necessarily work together. Rachel was engaged to Brendan. Jeff and Jordan were married, and Danny and her dad is Danny and her dad. So it's like it was an unfair advantage going in. The twist was to rig and help them. And the twist at the end at top 6 was to rig and help them. And it was that the veto competition was a prior HOH competition that they already played that season that Rachel won. So it's like, what is there to say? She got a lot of help. I will say Rachel has ABC sense like Josh. I feel like Rachel and Josh's sense of the game are about what and what. And Rachel played 13 less argumentative than she played 12. What I noticed watching is that Rachel got in arguments, but it was with people who were never going to work with her. In 12, these people, like, what are you doing, girl? Like, you could try to strategize with them. In 13, Danny was done with her, and Danny's the only person Rachel really argued with. When she got in her tuffles with Jeff and Jordan, they were in a bound alliance. They weren't going anywhere. And she was nice to the other people who weren't in that. Her and Portia had a great relationship. She had a good relationship with Adam. She talked to Shelly, even though she didn't like Shelly. She didn't get in arguments with those other people. So it was a little better than her 12 game, and it wasn't pots and pans like that.
Yeah, I think it definitely does make sense why she's kind of down here with Josh, only because I do feel like their personality is kind of similar, where they're very reactive, and they can be very emotional in the game. A lot of their decisions are kind of based around emotion, and that's just not good for a winner. I think, like you mentioned, she had a lot of help, and we know the producers be rigging down. We do know. At the end of the day, they wanted Brenchel, or at least Rachel, as long as they could keep her. They wanted G-Jo as long as they can keep him, because Allison Gardner was getting them showman checks. She knew exactly what the hell she was doing. I never want to say any show is just 100% rigged, because I just feel like that takes the fun out of it. Like, I don't want to just think, oh my God, they just gave Rachel this win. She definitely earned this in some sort of way. It's just,
she did.
For everything to keep going your way like that, it's gonna look a bit suspicious. The thing about Rachel is just, I just don't think that she wins too many more seasons. I don't. That's why I had her so low on my list. I think a lot of things had to go right for a lot of these people in the lower half to win. And a lot of those things not gonna go right again, babe. It's just not. Like, some of these are flukes, and out of 31 winners, you're gonna have some lucky people. And I think that Rachel kind of falls into that category. I think one of her best attributes is that she can win competitions. Yeah. You probably her back up against the wall, she's gonna win the HOH on her ass and stay. But that's it. I fear.
That's her only good attribute, I fear. So that's that, babe. 29, Rachel. Next, her bestie. Now, and this is what I'll say. I had those first 3, that was the order that I had them. I had the brothers 32, Josh 31, Rachel 30. Where'd you have Rachel? Because I don't think you have Rachel.
I had Rachel at 25.
so a little bit higher. I had Jordan 26.
I had
Um,
29.
I had her 26. So I had Jordan a little higher. And the reason that I have Jordan higher is because I think Jordan's a good player. If I had to categorize somebody as a good player or a bad player, I wouldn't say Rachel's a good player. I wouldn't say Josh is a good player, honestly. And I wouldn't say the brothers is a good player. But Jordan, I do think is a good player. Watching her season, rewatching it, you know that she is just socially very, very well. There's random players sprinkled throughout Big Brother that their social game is just so damn good. Brittany, Bailey, these are the examples. Jordan fits in that category of our social game is going to take us far. And just off social game, Jordan was going to make it far regardless. When I look at what happened throughout the season, even without the coup d'etat, Jordan probably could make it to the end of that game and still probably win. But I do think that coup d'etat coming into play when it was a vote, they voted who got the coup d'etat, and that really, really helped her a lot. I feel like that put a asterisk mark on her win because it's like that really helped you.
Exactly.
Your boyfriend got it. But overall, Jordan had strategic sense. She did. The first week, the vote between the racist and Shima was literally 8-7 or 6-7 because of Jordan. Jordan literally grabbed a whole entire side of people, got them to vote with her. She thought she had one more, but she didn't. And that's the thing, that plan failed, but she literally created an entire side of the house anti Jesse's minions, And I do feel like that shows that she's a capable player. And the fact that she's 28 with all of these positives, I feel, shows that winners really just are in general, they're just good players. Honestly, I feel like the rest of the winners we talk about, literally, they have good qualities. All these winners have good qualities. So there you go. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and like I said, like it definitely like these people on the lower spectrum of things. It's like a lot of things had to go right. Like if a coup d'etat was not in her season, does she necessarily win? The fact that that's there, like you said, it does have to put that asterisk mark there. Now I didn't really get into 11 like that, so I don't know everything about the inside of her game, but I do know that Jordan gets a lot of help. And I do think she's a good player in the sense that she will definitely go far in a lot of situations, which is why I feel like she definitely in the overall ranking deserves to be overall Rachel and a Josh in the sense that she will go further than them, but can she win? The thing about players like Josh and Rachel is that they're dynamic enough if they get to the end, they can always win. Is Jordan likable enough to always get to the end and win? Or is she a GOAT in the season with a Derek? Is she a GOAT in the season with someone who's just not flops? Like not saying everyone in 11 was flops, but it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I told you I'm busy. I'm busy. See, I'm doing something. I know you was.
And honestly, I feel the same way. It's like we're not necessarily sure that Jordan can win all the time, and that's really her issue because even when we saw her come back in BB13, it wasn't necessary. Basically, when she came back in BB13, they was like Jordan can't win. Even if Jordan makes it to final two, she can't really win. So that is her issue, is that because she's not dynamic enough, or because she just doesn't have like enough credibility to her win. There's certain players out there that no matter how they try to change it up, some people just aren't going to respect them. And I feel like Jordan just seems like the type of player who needs Jeff. She needs a Jeff, or she needs Brendan and Jeff to throw the HOH to her and woo the woo, and that's not good for her game. So she's 28. I fear. Ciao. I just want to say,
okay.
He's down here with the
players.
He's down here with the lesser players, I fear. Whew. You go first.
I mean, I really don't have much to say about Ian. I just personally, I hate to say it, I just don't respect his game. I think his best attribute, like a lot of people are lower down here, if he's good at competitions, and I think that's really what boosted his win. He was able to just kind of win his way there. He was targeted a lot of the times and then didn't even know and just bloop happened to win. And then it's like, I think personally for me, what proves that Ian just isn't necessarily a great player is his all-star game. Because I like for the other players, I couldn't really all the way go to their other seasons, but I do think it's necessary for Ian because it's like the fact that he came into a whole different season and his thought process was like, I'm just going to win competitions in a season where the competitions had been changed drastically. Like they were not the same competitions from 14. So I just feel like overall, like a lot of players. I'm just gonna keep saying it. Like a lot of things went right for him.
Mm-hmm.
If one competition was off, then he didn't go home. Probably
He
100%.
was out, I fear.
You know, and he didn't really have much of a game sense on his own. Like, he had a lot of help. You know, so it's like I feel like one of his shining moments was the Mike Bookie move, but like
That wasn't his move, I fear.
you know what I mean? It kind of just got credit for
Yeah.
it. It felt like definitely Dan deserved to win that season, like point blank period, and they did not like Dan. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's for the game. It's very similar to Josh in the sense that they didn't want the person next to him to win, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
can't really give that too much, you know, because at the end of the day, if Dan was not a returnee, does Dan just beat Ian? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
circumstance. It's all comes down to circumstance. I feel.
Yeah, I agree. And rewatching his season, I do think Ian has ABC sense. I'm gonna keep saying that word because I think he does. He did actively search out for the big alliance and he joined it, even though it was a fake alliance with him in it, similar to his fake alliance with him in it in BB22. It really just shows every season Ian's probably gonna get in a fake alliance and they're just gonna get him out when they do. Like, because that's what happened. Just so happened he ended up winning all those comps at the end. But that's the thing, like Ian did everything for Brittany. That season was Brittany's season to win. And Ian did everything for her. The Mike Boogie move was because Mike Boogie was like, Brittany gotta go. So Ian was like, ooh, let me tell Brittany and get him out. So that's what she did. He told Brittany, Brittany told her puppy Shane, and Shane got him out. And it's like, all you did was help Brittany. Mike Boogie was never taking out Ian. Mike Boogie would have took Ian to the end. So it's like, if your shining move is telling Brittany to get out her biggest threat when she's the biggest threat, it's like, what are you doing? I feel like the reason he's probably above some of these other people is because he's not argumentative.
Yeah.
He's not gonna argue with you back and forth. He also didn't necessarily need the help of any twist. Like technically he won because of the competitions, not because of a
and
twist.
that's fair and square.
And so it's like he has these, I guess, these slight differences in these other people at the bottom game. So it puts him a little bit over them. Next. Number 26 is
The
Adam.
drug lord.
The drug lord. So I recently watched BB9. And watching BB9, it was the first time I ever watched it. I never wanted to watch it, never cared for it. And honestly, after watching it, I still don't care for it. But I finally watched it. And honestly, because my expectations were so low for Adam, it really, really increased my, I don't know, perception of him after I watched it. Because honestly, Adam is not necessarily a bad player. Because when you're watching that season, you see that no one ever really wants to target Adam. Adam is very much so the most socially aware player in that game. Sheila hating him is not his fault. It was really arbitrary BS. He didn't necessarily give her much of a reason to hate him, but I do feel like in comparison to the players that are above him, he just does not have a strong sense of the game in a lot of ways. He did get in that majority alliance. He stayed in a good position within it. But honestly, that's it. He just got added to an alliance. He was socially good enough to get added to an alliance, and he was ABC aware of the game to take the person to the end that he needed to take. It wasn't much, nothing. There was much nothing, and I do. There was much nothing. There was not. There was literally nothing else to it. You know, he was just not terrible, and I think that explains his placement. You know, not bad, but not terrible. Like I feel like 27 down. You could say terrible, I fear. Adam, you know, bad but not terrible.
And see, honestly, I don't know much about Adam at all. I didn't watch Nine. All I know about Adam is that he's a drug dealer down. Well, not anymore. I heard he's clean now. That's great. I think he does like the Dare program. Love that. Love that. He definitely changed as a person. Beautiful. Don't know much about BB9. I can't give an opinion. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. I don't want to sound stupid on this podcast, y'all. I can't. I didn't watch.
I said enough, I feel.
I've watched a lot of Big Brother, but never deep dive into Nine. I was told Nine was... The thing is, I watched 15, 21, not knowing it was... I had to experience it, but knowing that BB9 was bad, it's like, in that way, I can't... I'm not going to force myself to watch it. I can't.
Don't do it. It's not worth it, buddy. 25. Okay. And see, this makes sense because I feel like from here on, in my opinion at least, from 24 up, I feel like it's going to be. I have an argument. I could literally argue any of these people are like great players, good players,
Wait,
whatever.
so he's 25?
He's 20. He's 25 with a 24 written on it. Hold on, I can change that as we speak. Talk about him though.
So Steve, I feel like for me, on my list, I had him at 27. I'm not high on Steve's game because I feel like you can respect the fact that he kind of really fought himself there by kind of skating by, but it was a lot of circumstance. I feel like Vanessa, she was the pillar of strategy that season. A lot of the moves that were being made was going through her point of view, and I feel like he benefited from the moves that she made. Like games that benefited her also benefited him. Like when you eating at the table and your dog sitting right there and he looking hungry, he been starving, he begging for some food, and you just throw something to him. I think Steve just got the scraps, no shade. You know what I mean? And he benefited greatly from it. I will say a positive for Steve is that he is able to win those competitions. Those in-game comps for him is what gave him the win. He beat Vanessa in Final 3, cut that bitch, cooked Liz, and won. I think, my thing is, I think people can name that as his biggest move. I don't feel strongly about someone's biggest move being at the last point that you can make it. I mean, what else were you going to do? Take her and lose? I fear. Like, I don't know. Like it wasn't rocket science. Like, you take her and lose her, don't take her and win. So it's like, I don't think Steve makes it pretty far in most seasons. He was never really able to crack into any alliance for real, majority or minority. Nobody really wanted him. Vanessa used him, and the students surpassed the master. But like I said, it was very circumstantial. If Vanessa had won that comp, which she was a pretty good comp beast that season, he would have lost. He was at third.
Yeah.
And it would have been it for. Well, he probably got second. Whoa, if she took him, I don't want to live in that universe. I don't want to live in that universe. But that would have been better down. Like, no, like at the end of the day, no shame. Vanessa deserved to win that season. I'm just gonna throw it out there. But I don't think Steve is a terrible winner. It's just I'm just thinking of him as a player moving forward. It wouldn't work like that. It just would not work like that for him. It would be way too many obstacles. And I don't think he is socially savvy enough. I don't think he's strategically savvy enough either.
I agree with a lot you said. Steve and Ian's games, I feel like are similar in the fact that they were not invited into an alliance, and then they got used by that alliance that they were not invited into until the end, and then at the end they started winning comps. One thing I will say though is that I think Steve's was intentional, and yes, he was eating the scraps of the food, but he kind of went to the table knowing there was going to be scraps. And I like that because Steve.
No, he
no, like he definitely intentionally Vanessa used him, but he used Vanessa because who won? He intentionally knew Vanessa's eating this shit up, so I'ma eat the scraps. I mean, I fear. So he did, and I like that it was intentional. I like that it was on purpose. And, when really thinking about his game, the week that he won his first HOH, he had the option to either pick the Gremlins or pick them other people, Vanessa them. And he picked Vanessa them, and it was because he knew Vanessa was going to take them hoes out. He basically knew, he was like, Vanessa going to strategize me all the way to Final 3 because she's not going to go with the throuple. So because she's not going with the throuple, she's going to make sure they get out because she's that girl. And I'm going to use, basically he was like, I don't want to strategize. So I'm going to make Vanessa, or I can't, let's be honest. I can't strategize to that level. So I'm going to let Vanessa do all the strategy for me, then I'm take her out. And I think the reason he's low is because that's kind of like a weak ass way of playing the game. That's not going to work.
He definitely played in her shadow. And then
that's not going to work a lot of the
time. Got her when she was not looking.
Definitely. But I do think it's just a little bit more intentional, a little bit more savvy than all of these players under him. I technically think Steve is a good player. I think he was very mindful of what he was doing. And that's what I liked about his diary rooms. Every week he would talk about how the house is split, and even though I'm not in good standing with them, they're not going to take me out because they're split. So I liked that he was understanding of what the fuck was going on at the bare minimum. Now we have 24, I fear.
Per Sarah. Now, Sarah, a lot of people have very negative opinions about Sarah's win, and I think it is understandably so. That is not a word, but child said it. And she's definitely one of those players that have that little asterisk mark next to her win because in week 6 they introduced the coup d'etat. Her and her closest ally, they were chosen to be have-nots by America. Well, the people who were chosen to be have-nots were
Canada.
given a secret twist. So the secret twist was a coup d'etat. Brittany got the coup. They used it, and they got out someone from the majority alliance. They were able to win the next 3 consecutive HOHs. It went Sarah, Brittany, Sarah. They couldn't win that final 4 veto, so Brittany got cut. She's in final 3 with Godfrey and Ashley, veto queen. Godfrey wins the final and takes Sarah, and Sarah beats him. Now, the thing about Sarah is that she definitely just would not have gotten there if that coup did not happen. And that is the issue I think a lot of people have, is that literally she just would not have won, point blank, period. And that coup was very OP'd. It just definitely was. Like, it came kind of randomly and very late in the game, and it just, I can see why a lot of people just doesn't have a respect for her game. Personally, for me, I think Sarah is one of the most satisfying wins I've seen in Big Brother Canada, Big Brother history. Honestly, like, so many times the person I'm rooting for, the people I want to win, they never get to win. I did want Brittany to win, so I guess I didn't get everything I wanted. But the fact that Sarah, the underdog story, they came out, they fought, and they won at the end. It was beautiful to see, and I do think that Sarah should be higher than who she is on this list. Who higher than the people that she is higher than, Josh, Rachel, and Ian and Steven, is because I do feel like she had good strategy. And when she had power, she knew what to do with it. I feel like a lot of players, when they get that power, they don't make the best decision. Like, they still end up winning. So it's like, can you argue that it's a bad decision? But it's the fact that it still could have turned out wrong. I feel like every time that Sarah and Brittany had control, they made great decisions. They got out the right people, and that, catapulted them to get far. She kept a great social game. Brittany was always going to go ahead of her. So it's like Sarah had a lot of positives that I feel like will work in another season. Unfortunately, she was not able to break into that pretty, all pretty people alliance. But if Sarah comes back in the season that's by PLC, perhaps an all-star season where there are more people who are not going to just gang up because they're pretty, then Sarah may have a great chance. So I don't think people should definitely sleep on her, but she's lower because of that coup. Because it's like, you can't ignore that. No matter how much you like her, you cannot ignore that happened.
Yeah. And yeah, on the other hand, I would have put Sarah below a lot of these people who we have below her. Me personally, I would put her below
You're
Steve.
mad.
I would put her below Steve and Jordan because I do feel like without the coup, Jordan could have still won, and that's a testament to her gameplay. And I feel like Steve is just a better player than Sarah a little bit. But not that. That's only 2 people. That's only two, whatever the fuck. And I don't think it's bad. Like, I do think Sarah's win is impressive because regardless of that one little push of help, she still made it there in every other way, in every other aspect. You know what I'm saying? She still won the comps when she needed to after that push. Even before that push, she won comps. She still had the social game to where she wasn't going to go before Brittany. And I feel like Sarah does have strategic sense. And also the fact that there was this, like Lee said, this pretty people alliance and the couples alliance, all these things that Sarah just was never going to get into. I feel like it does, like, it kind of negates the coup in a way. It's kind of like, yeah, but this alliance that gets created is based off of social, like, status. It's just weird. And yes, Big Brother is also a game, but it's not. I don't think it's necessarily a fair situation that Sarah was in, at all. It's in a bi POC world. If she were to come back and play a season with diversity in it, I think Sarah can succeed. I think Sarah could make it to the end because she's not a bad player in my opinion. Period. Look at her.
Miss Furniture.
Girl, Miss Chair. So we have here Kaycee. I recently watched BB20, and honestly, my perception of Kaycee went down after my rewatch. Like I already thought she was not that girl, but I remember thinking, oh, but her social game's was pretty good. And honestly, hindsight 2020, it wasn't. She didn't really make good relationships with, like, Rockstar, Fessy, the people on the opposite side. The only person she did have a relationship on the opposite side was Bailey.
But they voted for her.
They did vote for her. They did. And so the only people on the other and we know, let's be honest, we know confirmed First of all, Bailey basically said, "Y'all are my puppets, and y'all are going to not vote for Tyler." One and two. Honestly, truly, Tyler did not handle that jury correctly, in my opinion. I think the reason Kaycee won was not because her social game was great. It was because Tyler's social game was worse, and that's just that. I fear. And Kaycee didn't have a good social game, in my opinion. Like I said, she had no relationship with Rockstar like that. She just wasn't mean to Rockstar. Tyler didn't even talk to that bitch sometimes. Like it just was in comparison to the person you're next to, sure it was better. But in general, Kaycee was not that good of a player. She won a lot of competitions. That's something that Fessy values. That's mostly why he voted for her. It's like she won a lot of competitions. She had a not negative social game, and she had a not negative strategic game. I think that's why she's above these other people, because she doesn't necessarily have negatives. I can't necessarily give Kaycee a negative. Everybody below us, we could give them a negative. We can give them an asterisk, etc. At this point, it's like there's no negative about Kaycee, but to me, the only positive is that she can win comps, and that's such a competition wins. It's like 10% of a player, in my opinion, like 15%. Like that strong positives means nothing in the grand scheme of things, because if you can't strategize and socialize, then you're not good. She was a part of a very good alliance, but honestly, Kaycee was the main target for the other side outside of that alliance. If Kaycee wasn't so good at comps, she was low-key going to go home after Angela, because basically the idea was Angela's gone, then Kaycee can go after Angela, because people like Fessy would have targeted Kaycee before he targeted Tyler and Brent, and Haley had a better relationship with Brent, and at that point she didn't even want to target Tyler no more. So it's like the boys in that alliance made better relationships with the other side than her, and it's like we're saying her positive is her social game, but where? Like Brent had them on lock for some reason. I don't know why. Brett, whatever his name is. So that's it. She's not bad, but she's not good.
I think Kaycee is definitely one of those players that you really have to analyze some players. A lot of players, they look great on paper. You know what I mean? She's in this dominant alliance. She's getting to the end with her final 2 that she has since day 1. She won 5 vetoes in a row, 6 comps in total, counting the HOH, and then she won. You know what I mean? So it's like on paper, that looks like probably one of the most dominant games ever. But when you actually experience it, she was not making things shake like that. She was not the one spearheading a lot of strategic things in the game. That was a lot of JC. That was a lot of Tyler. You know what I mean? Like, and she was kind of just behind in that shadow. I feel like I didn't even realize Tyler and Kaycee had a final 2 until in the middle of the season. Like towards the end of the season, they're like, "Yeah, we've been together this whole time," and it's like, together? Like, I thought our final 2 supposed to work together. Derek and Cody worked together. Dan and Memphis worked together. Tyler worked, and Kaycee sat there and didn't do shit. No shade. I just feel like Kaycee, she just has a lot of good qualities as a person. She's a good person to get along with. She's great at competition. She's someone that can be seen as useful. She's trustworthy. These are just natural great attributes that she has, and I feel like she didn't put most of them to work. I feel like she was in a great position, but she didn't do anything with it. She could have easily outplayed Tyler, JC, anyone that season with the position she was in. But she didn't have the strategic forethought to do so. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, she played the challenge more strategically than she played Big Brother. Like, that's the gag.
Great challenge player.
Yeah,
Great
as a challenge player will be in top 5, I fear. But Big Brother is on the lower end, because I feel like if she comes back, do I think she can win again? Yeah, but it's like, she wouldn't deserve that either. No shade. Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, a little bit of bias within this, because for me personally, I just feel like I don't even like that man Tyler like that. But there's no way in hell Kaycee deserved to win that season over him. Hate to say it. If there's any Kaycee stands, oh well, babe. Sorry. Like I said, great on the challenge. Love her there. Hope she keeps winning over there. But Big Brother, she could have kept that win. She could have kept that win.
And that's the thing. Her competition wins was her main strength. And JC was 3 seconds away from literally winning the game. Because if he would have won that final 3, HOH part, Kaycee's out, I fear. JC probably wins the final one and takes her out. So it's like, how you a hair away from JC, I fear.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned the competitions too, because I feel like the next person is a big thing about this. But it's also with Kaycee, it's like, competitions for me, personally, my opinion, they do not matter if you're not doing anything with them. She won 5 videos in a row, didn't use any of them, I don't think.
She didn't use any. She did not use any. And they mentioned that in the jury questioning. And that's the thing. And Kaycee in a jury against JC, she probably wouldn't win. Or even in a jury that Bailey wasn't in, I fear, she probably doesn't even win. Because, it really was circumstantial. And Tyler made a lot of blunders with that jury. And I feel like it was more so she won because next to Tyler, he made blunders. Period. Like I don't know what else to say. I fear. But yeah, that's enough on her because she ain't even that girl. Here he go.
You put Kevin in. We know, babe. It ain't Kevin J.
It's not. So Kevin Martin, I feel he's 22, y'all. And I feel like that fits. I do feel like that his win was very much so. It was just like it just reminded me of like a I don't even know. I don't know. It's like you memorized like the cheat sheet to the test. Like the test had a cheat sheet and you memorized every single answer and that's how you got the test right.
So
like you did.
The girls who don't know, basically by season 5, Big Brother Canada had been doing the exact same competitions they've been doing every single season. So Kevin, he took the time he got a notebook. He studied out every single detail of how these competitions. He studied them. He figured out strategies on how to win them. That's what he did. So towards the latter half of BBK 5, he beasted out the competitions. And I think that's why it's interesting that him and Kaycee are so similar together because Kevin, like Kaycee, I feel like is another player that looks great on paper. On paper, he has 5 comp wins at the end, 3 vetoes in a row, and then he wins the game. Unanimously, I think. So it's like, on paper, he looks like one of the best goddamn winners of all time. But once you're experiencing it, towards that latter half of the game, if he didn't win not one of those competitions, he would have been out. He was not dominating that game. That was Ika's field house. That entire game, Ika was running down, especially when jury hit. Kevin, if he did not win one of those competitions, he was going home. You're going home! It was 100% confirmed. So it's like, yes, I want to give him credit because it's like, you did win those competitions, and that's why he's higher than a lot of these people because he won them, but you have to think about it. One, in newer Big Brother Canada seasons, they changed comps up. You can't study them. They're not something that can be easily beatable. They're more equitable. So literally, the main reason why he was able to win would not work in any other season because they literally changed it up. I think it's because of him. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's my issue with him. Strategically, he has a good strategic sense, but I feel like naturally he fits that James Ryan archetype, that Rohan archetype, the one that has to keep winning those vetoes and those comps just to keep skating by. He was just one who could keep winning, and he did. But it's like, you're not going to be able to keep winning every season. He really didn't have anything else to him other than the comp wins because people did not like him at all. No one really wanted to work with him. Ike and Dimitri was a pair, and everyone literally chose them. All he had was Jackie, and no one liked that bitch Jackie either. He didn't even like Jackie. So it was like, it's really he only had the compliments that he literally had to study for. So hey, you can't really do more than that.
Yeah, let's be honest. The social game wasn't there. They didn't like him. The strategic game wasn't there. This is the man using vetoes on Ika, the person who was a comp away from winning the season, a twist away from winning the season because they had a twist that Dimitri couldn't play the Final Four veto. Baby, with that veto that he played, you lost. I fear. Like I don't know. It's like you were using vetoes on Ika.
That move did not make sense. Yeah, because I need to make sure that Dimitri goes. So I'm going to use veto on Ika. That because they're so mad at her that girl, it wasn't making sense. Kevin,
we're in the era of the rankings where they have no strategic sense and they can win comps because that's the same thing with Kaycee. Like his strategic sense, it's weird because Kevin is a strategic human. I think he makes actions based on strategy. But he's not good at it. It's weird. It's like you're strategic. You're just not good at being strategic. And I feel like there's players out here like that who are strategic and they pinpoint their next move, but they're just not good at the strategy. So it doesn't matter. And that's kind of what it is with Kevin. Like most of his strategy is bad.
Yeah, and it doesn't pan out like what was planned.
I said it. That's that on him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the best thing strategically is that he was with Bruno, but Bruno was kind of the driving force behind the strategy.
We don't talk about Bruno. Drew. So, I actually watched Drew's season, and my opinion on him changed in a positive manner. I kind of was like, Drew didn't do nothing. He cut Diane. That's not necessarily true. Drew had like an amazing like social game. It was very, very good. He also had really good relationships with the other women in the alliance. So much so that even if Diane wasn't in the season, Drew probably could have still won. It wasn't that he was leeching off Diane as much as I thought it was. It was more so Diane was the weakest to his charm. Like Diane was the crack in that alliance, basically. And he used her. And this is the thing. Hindsight 2020, Drew is now out and about as gay. So he didn't want that woman. Like, I just have to say it. So, like, he's now out. Like, I guess back then he could have, but honestly, in the diary rooms, he would say, I mean, Diane's cool, but I don't see a future with her outside of this game. So it's like hindsight 2020, he was using her. And I do feel like if he could actively use her throughout that entire game on purpose to make sure that he could get to the end, and he convinced her to break off from her alliance. He's the one who convinced her to backstab Nokomis. He's the one who convinced her to backstab Karen. So I do think he just has these strategic qualities that really puts him up there. He was almost in the top 20. Top 20 is good out of 30, 33, 32.
Yeah.
I do think he has a lot of good qualities, but he's missing I feel like he's missing that real strategic just drive and that real strategicness. It's like it's there, but it's very, very low. It's kind of like, you know how there's some players who it's like they do things strategically, but they couldn't tell you what they did. I feel like if we interviewed Drew, he wouldn't be able to tell you what I'm telling you right now because he just doesn't have that full awareness, but he's still doing it. So it puts him at this era, this like middle era, I feel, of we're kind of in the middle. This like the lowest of the middle. He's in the low middle. And I think that's where he fits.
Yeah, like I feel like I've watched BB Can. I've watched Big Brother 5 before, and I really did enjoy it. But I just feel like, similar to what you said with Drew, it's just like he definitely does lack that, almost that leadership role. You know what I mean? Like he didn't really take too much charge. I feel like he's very passive. Like I feel like what separates him from like a Cody or like an Xavier or like a Dane is that they will create an alliance and control it, whether he is kind of in the background. Like I don't personally, I don't respect a game where you kind of use someone to kind of get to where you were. And I do think he used Diane. And I'm not gonna say use them in a way of like no, I just feel like he definitely hid behind what she was doing and then cut her when she wasn't looking. I don't respect that. I really just don't respect that gameplay. I think it's smart, get your check, babe. You know what I mean? But it's like I don't have to respect it, and I don't think it will work every season. It just wouldn't. Also, I think BB can't. Why I keep saying BB can't? I feel like Big Brother 5 is like. I remember watching this. The gameplay on that season is definitely because it's the fifth. It's the fifth season in the series. It's like it's not something that's like major. So I do feel like if he were to play in another season, like even if he played All Stars, if he came back for All Stars, I think he would have flopped or he just got used again. And I definitely don't see him being able to play in a modern version. So I think that's why he was definitely like, if he was doing this ranking at BB10, he'd be what, top 5 maybe, but where this is BB 23 plus BB Can like 5 seasons. So he's not that girl no more.
He's not that girl no more. Yeah. Moving along.
Oh, and he also isn't he the first person to win 4 HOHs? I think he's the first person to win like 4 HOHs in one season. He is. We love a game changer.
A game changer. But we see how that season went. So we have Dickory Doc. He is
not Dickory Doc.
Like I said, we do not condone Dick saying the N-word, Dick being all that other shit. We don't condone. We don't give a fuck about all that. We talk about his game. Okay. Period. As a player, I feel like Dick gets a lot of like flack for the America's Player twist. But I don't necessarily think that we can blame him so much for that in the way that a coup d'etat is just blatantly in your face helping somebody's game. The way that, you know, 2 coup d'etats was below this. You know, I feel like stuff like that is like, ooh, like, girl, you was literally going to lose without that. I cannot confidently say Dick would have lost without that. Also, he's in the season with his literal estranged daughter. I feel like being in the Big Brother game with all that stress, on top of the fact that you are trying to win your daughter's literal like anything back, is a lot to deal with. And through all that, Dick still literally created the majority alliance around him, and he was running the majority alliance, running the house. And the only reason that went away was because of a blimp, you could say. Because this is what happened. Let me explain it. So Dick is running the house. Him and Danielle are damn near centered in the house because Dick made it that way. Dick had all the social bonds. Dick had all the strategy. He centered the house around them. Then a banner, which is not okay for Big Brother. That's damn near cheating. You know, that affects the game. A banner came over the house and said, Eric is a liar. Dick and Danielle was like, we need to flip on the alliance. So they only flip on the alliance because of a banner. That's an outside source. When they do that, that's when the alliance flips on them. So it's like people try to say, well, they betrayed their alliance. Dick betrayed his alliance. He only did it because of a banner, which is
that
not
was correct
fair.
because
a correct banner, which is not fair, you know. So the way that America's player helped him, it also hurt him because since Eric was America's player, that banner fucked his entire game up. The whole trajectory of the game changed from then on. It was very hard to analyze Dick because we can't say for sure what would happen. But even when it comes down to the fact that he was arguing with them, he argued with them because Danielle needed to stay. He wanted Danielle to stay over him. I don't think it's fair to rate Dick as a bad player because he was trying to get the house to vote him out against his literal daughter. He is the only person who has played with his daughter in Big Brother history. America, I mean, US, Canada, fucking UK, bitch. Like, he's the only person who's ever had to deal with that. So I feel like knocking him on these things isn't fair. And I'm saying this because people knock him on these things all the time. And I really just think it's because they think he's a bad person, which he is. But when it comes to the game, I don't think necessarily he's a bad player. Like I said, he made a whole majority alliance, created it, ran it, and then a banner flew over the house. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
No, and definitely I feel like him being a 20 makes sense because I feel like he has a good social game. He has a good strategic sense. It's definitely like middle of the road. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like him coming back in 13 definitely sort of proved that. Like he kind of set up the game for the veterans to get to the end. Like Rachel can kind of accompany her win to Evil Dick because he had the entire strategy kind of mapped out. So I do feel like you can't really judge him for doing things to keep his daughter safe because, like you said, this is his whole damn daughter. I do feel like I personally would have loved to see him play again, maybe without his daughter or in 13, just really show the girls that he can play this game because, like you mentioned, I feel like other than some of these other players who had coup d'etats and things like that, America's player wasn't really the reason why he won. You know what I mean? Like, he easily could have won without America's player. So, I don't think I really think it's the same because also too without, like I say, if you take away America's player, he's still a great strategist and a great social player. If you take away Coop and things from the players, they don't really have anything else to them. So I don't think you can necessarily put him with those type of players. And I feel like 20 is a great spot. You know, top 20 out of 31. I mean, heck.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about that BB13 stuff for some of the people who don't really like analyze this game because he's just a bad person and because they don't like him. Whoop de whoop. Like I just want to say in BB13, the reason the veterans had Portia and Adam doing their bidding was because Dick literally went to Portia, was like, "You're gonna work with us. We're gonna save you." Dick ran the first 3 evictions without even being in the house. He's the one who organized the fact that Keith was going home. Portia was going to get her golden key, and she's going to work with us. Dominic's going home. Adam's getting his golden keys. He's going to work with us. He organized literally the first 3 evictions before he even went home. He organized the big alliance. He's the one who was centered in between Jeff and Jordan and Rachel and Brendan. Like he really dominated within 4 days because he went home on the 4th day. And it's like we really cannot. I don't know. I think y'all be playing in this man's face as a player, like separate the game from the terrible human that he is. Or try.
Oh my God.
Try to, because it's hard, I fear. All right, next. Lisa, that's my girl. So I had Lisa 17, just a little bit tad higher than this, but I think her falling at 19 is fine for her, especially because of the fact that she was trained by the mother of Big Brother. And I do think that helped her game out a lot. But what I will say was that rewatching Big Brother 3, first of all, it was Big Brother 3. So I feel like back then at the very like tip of strategy, the tip of this game. Like she was on the literal third season. For her to have done what she did in the game, I feel like it was impressive. So just to lay out Lisa's game, Lisa came in and the majority of the alliance kind of formed around her because she was the first HOH. She was very well centered in that alliance. She had good bonds with the boys, and the girls the girls of that big alliance had an alliance with her. She also had great bonds outside of that alliance with Danielle, Jason, Marcellus, which is why when that big alliance got decimated, she didn't go nowhere, as you see. Danielle picked her up and used her throughout the game, but Lisa always had the social game on pack. Lisa had all the numbers in the jury by the time that happened because everyone in that big alliance was a number to vote for Lisa. So Lisa kind of got lucky in that. Well, not even lucky because she's the one who wanted that alliance to happen and everything. But Lisa had a lot of, I guess, good points, especially for it to be the third season. What I liked about Lisa is that her diary rooms from episode 1 on were straight up, I'm here to win. I'm going to do anything I can to do to win. I'm working with these people in this alliance, but if this alliance doesn't make it to the end, or if this alliance isn't going to get me to the end, I'm not doing it. Like, yes, you can give Danielle credit for pulling her in, but you also have to give Lisa credit for choosing to abandon her alliance and go with Danielle and Jason because that's what got her the win. If she stuck with that alliance, she probably maybe wouldn't make it there. So that was her decision. So there's my thoughts.
Yeah, I think Lisa, the reason why she probably doesn't get more respect is that she's literally playing, like you said, the mother of Big Brother, Miss Danielle Reyes herself. Like, if you're in the shadow of one of the greats, baby, you're gonna get shaded out. And unfortunately, she didn't get a chance to come and prove herself in All Stars for some strange reason as a winner. Didn't make any sense. So we really didn't get to see a growth. Maybe she really could have dominated that season. I feel like the great thing about Lisa, and that's going to be a positive for her game, is that she's a great ally. A lot of people are just great allies. They're a good team worker. But that's the thing. You're just a worker. You're a worker behind. It's like if you're not at least being perceived as the main strategist or actually actively being the main strategist, doing the main work, you're not going to get much respect. She was still able to beat Danielle, but that was due to Big Brother not getting their shit together and not sequestering the people who was voting. I mean, I fear common sense could have made, I don't know. I don't want to deep dive too much into that, but Danielle had social blunders. She wasn't as socially good as Lisa. Earlier seasons of Big Brother, they really cared about you as a person. They wanted good people to win. Lisa is your average, beautiful, pretty American girl. No shade. That's just the guy. She was sitting next to a black woman who pissed all of them off. So it's like, yeah, circumstance it gives, but she's definitely middle of the road. I think she would make it far. I think she could definitely win again, but
Yeah, I will say, even if the jury was sequestered, I think Lisa would have still won. But all your points still matter. Like, it still makes sense. But hey, that's Lisa. Like you said, average girl next door. What else is there to her? Oh, here we go again. Average girl next door. What is it?
It's like it's making sense. It's really making sense. Now, when I first watched Big Brother Canada, because first of all, I had to discover that Big Brother Canada was a thing. So I discovered Big Brother Canada was a thing, and then boom, I'm into BB Can. And first season, honestly, like, I think season 1 is definitely still one of their best seasons of the game. I like the gameplay. I love the twist. I didn't think they were too overpowered. Some of the best casting with Gary and things like that. Now, Miss Jillian definitely just didn't win the season. Like, she should not be here. We're talking about Gary. And that's the issue. I think Julian's rating, she's high based on her being a player. I think Julian is a great player. She won 4 competitions, boom, boom, boom. She had a showmance with Emmett. Her and Emmett definitely were the ones controlling a lot of things in the game. I think Emmett more so was the deciding factor in decisions, but Jillian was definitely the executor. And I don't think she's a bad winner. It's just she didn't win. Like, this isn't like this isn't like a debate. Like, she did not win. Topaz is dumb, sadly. So, but I do think overall, like, I'm not mad at it. I think she definitely deserved to win. It's just I don't think Jillian necessarily somebody who I definitely don't think she can come back and win the BPOC season. I don't think it's definitely way too later in BB Can. If she comes back, I think she would necessarily flop, but I don't think she could still. It wouldn't work out the same way it worked out in BB Can 1. I mean, I don't know.
Let's not sugarcoat it. Jillian benefited from the fact that she's a white woman a lot. I do think. I think that did help her
Well,
honestly because her social relationships and the relationship with Emmett was kind of based off of that. I fear, but in general, I do think Jillian's not a bad player. Honestly, with even regardless of the benefit that she had, I don't think necessarily that she's terrible at all. But like Lee said, she did not win, and that's her own fault. It's different if she didn't win because Gary just no. She didn't win because she treated that jury terribly.
yeah.
She had terrible jury management, and that's her problem. But that's like her only problem. Other than that, she's a great player. Strategy was there. Her comp wins was there. Her social game was there while she was in the house. But as she was sending people home, they I do feel like Emmett used her to just do his bidding, and she let him. So that's kind of like a knock. But in general, Jillian's a good player. Like from here on, they're just gonna be a good player. I fear. Like I don't know what you
Mm-hmm.
want us to tell you.
Like these next few kind of and are just really these are players that probably will make it far on average who likely could win again. Roll the dice. They're probably going to be in the top half of the game almost every
Mm-hmm.
time they play.
Yeah. All right, we got two more.
All right, so
John.
John. Now, see, my thing is with John, like I said earlier, I can't all the way respect someone who I feel like is just benefiting from someone else's game. Netta ran that season. She ate down, and that was in BB Can too. So very early on, she was really showing the girls how to play. Definitely, I feel like even with how she played BB Can 5, sorry, we're talking about Netta, it's John, but hey, I gotta get my sister out. Even with what she did in BB Can 5, it's like I do think Netta is one of the best strategists in BB Can history. So the fact that John was playing with her, it is kind of, he was kind of in her shadow a bit. I do think, unlike someone like Drew who did it, I do think John was way more intentional. So to set up the season, like the first five who essentially were the first five who entered the game, they were running the season. They were assholes. Every last one of them. I hated every last one of them. And so did Canada. So when Canada got HOH, because one of the Twistos twist, they nominated two of them, got one of them out, and then John flipped from the first five to Netta, and they kind of started running things. They were the dynamic duo. They had comp wins. They had the social game. When I say they, I mainly mean Netta, and Netta was letting him eat from the scraps at the table. But John, the thing is, was an executor a lot. His comp wins towards the end of the game really is what helped Netta because she was able to dictate her own wins and his. So that helps, but like I said, that was for Netta. I don't think John is an idiot, though. I don't think that he couldn't do these things without Netta. I think he could. It's just he benefited a lot from Netta. He doesn't have a Netta in a lot of seasons, and I do think that without a Netta, he could make it still pretty far because he had a great social game and he had a decent strategic game to where I feel like he can make it far on average. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
he was Netta's. Netta used them, and then at the end of the day, he went for the check instead of the girl, point blank, just like Drew.
You know, I will say I had Lisa and Jillian above him. I just want to let the fans know that because
Ooh,
okay, I don't agree with this placement. But
well,
John is here regardless. I think he is a little bit lesser of a player. It's funny because, like you said, John benefited off of Netta, who is one of the mothers of BB Can. Lisa did benefit off Danielle, who was one of the mothers of BBUS. So I do think they have like kind of similarities. But I do feel like John in general benefited a lot. Like Netta was the driving force for real. Like what were you doing? I fear. Other than leeching off of her. But hey, he leached. And that's the thing. John is smart because he jumped right the fuck off of that drowning, boat and went where to the mother where he needed to go. He also cut the mother what he needed to do. So John did all of the things that were right. I also think John is like, he's pretty good at competitions. His social game in general is good. I think that's what puts him apart from like some of these, the lower people who kind of benefited off of someone else, like Steve. Steve didn't have a good social game. John had a good social game. I feel like his strategy was way more, I guess, intentional. He did a lot of things that really moved him around the board. For him to be on one side of the house and then go all the way to the other side of the house, I do feel like is like a indicator that he's a strategist, a good player. So
he know he needed to get with the winning team.
he know he needs to get with a winning team. So this placement is cute for him, or whatever. And that's honestly it. I'll leave it at that. He's very bland. Another bland. No, okay. Once again, y'all, we know.
We know. And we know he kind of high.
But I fear he deserves it. Look, okay. First of all, Jackson Michie is a bad person, a bad human, and damn near borderline racist or just racist, simply put. But low-key, he's good at the game. Let me tell you why. I never watched BB21 because I don't want to see racists be racist for 3 months. So to the people who actually know his game and watched it, shame on you. Anyways, but I digress. So I finally rewatched every season. I didn't just choose this. I rewatched every season, and BB21 accidentally popped up as one of the seasons. So I watched it. So watching it, I learned, and it makes sense. But I learned that Jackson had good relationships with the people he was being racist to, which was interesting because he wasn't just blatantly racist. Let's be honest. Like, let me stop. But Jackson had a good relationship with Kimmy, Ovi, Cliff, Nicole, which is why when the Big Alliance broke off, he still had Cliff and Nicole. You know, and I felt like that was amazing watching it because I thought Jackson was just the typical, like, jock dickhead. Mm-hmm. Borderline racist dickhead who just shunned all of these people who were not like him. And that wasn't it at all. Jackson wanted Ovi to stay. Jackson wanted Kimmy to stay. Jackson wanted Cliff to stay. Jackson wanted Nicole Anthony to stay in the game. Jackson had great bonds with these people who were in the minority while being very well but very well adjusted in the majority alliance. And it was really, really interesting. I feel like the only reason that he got, that the majority alliance even broke up was because of the fact that Big Brother randomly had people who knew each other in that season, which I don't think is typical. Like, that's not going to happen every season. A lot of the time, Jackson's just going to get in the big majority alliance, be the most strategic, and win. There's a big point in the season where he tells this lie on Tommy, and that lie is like one of the more strategical points in Big Brother history, honestly. If you go through the points of just burst of strategy, that's one of them. And it's by this horrible human being, but hey, he did it, I fear. So it sucks that he's not a good person, but he's a good player, I fear. Mm-hmm. So that's why he's 16. He didn't make the top 15, but still, compared to these other people, once we get to these next couple people, these people have very big parts of their game that are just very positive. And I feel like Jackson is the start of that in this ranking that we're going to do. And it's funny that we're ending on him because he really is, I feel like, the transition between, elite players and, average and below.
Yeah. I fear. I think, one of the only things I like about Jackson, because I don't like a lot, is that he's a scrappy player, and I think he's going to do what he wants to win. Like, he wanted to win that game, and he was going to do whatever it took to win. Like, people don't be lying like that. The fact that he just blatantly was just like, yeah, he was coming for y'all, and they believed it, and then did whatever the fuck he wanted.
Nicole Anthony didn't believe it, but keep going. But it still helped
It still helped them. So it's like the fact, like, people aren't. There's so many people who be like, "Well, I'm not gonna lie. Well, I'm not gonna do this. Well, I'm not gonna do this." Like, no, he did all of those things. Mm-hmm. I will say a big thing for Jackson. With his comp wins, they could not stop him from winning, and he had a duo in Holly. That's interesting too. A lot of these people in this kind of. They have these duos who can kind of help them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Who are helping them win these competitions, who are helping them stay in power. So Holly benefited that a lot with him as well. I feel like the reason why he won was because he did play such a dominant game. And I do think Jackson is one of the few players on this list, sadly, who could come back and win. Like, definitely not in the PLC season, because clearly he does not like people who are darker than a brown paper bag. But, in Alison Gardner's universe, where she only casts beautiful white people, he probably eats it up on average. So I do feel like he deserves credit for the good gameplay that he played despite the racism, but he definitely is racist.
And I will say, even though, he did win a lot, they did win back to back to back to back. The times that they didn't win, Tommy won an HOH. Tommy was like, well, I like Jackson. I'm not nominating him. Nicole won an HOH. She's like, well, I guess I just got to stick with him because I made an alliance with him. It's like the work that he had put in prior to, for those 2-3 blunders that they had, it didn't even matter because he put in that work. So it's like, it's impressive overall. But hey, he was the last one. We're not gonna keep praising him or whatever. We're done, I feel.
We're done.
That was number 16 through number 31 of our Big Brother winners rankings. Join us next week. We're going to be talking about the top 15, the real elite. We're going to get really into it. We're gonna actually have some real shit to talk about or whatever.
Yeah, we'll get into the girls.
Period. Look, I want y'all to comment the shit y'all disagree with. Don't, if you feel like we put a player too low, let us know.
Yeah, argue down.
So we can argue in the comments, I fear. Like,
get in our ass. If you feel like Jackson is a terrible person, he should be 31, let us know.
Mm-hmm. And if you feel like Josh is a great player and he should be top 15,
stop lying.
Ciao. So, bitch, that's it. Bye.